Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, June 5th, 2020, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the 2020 betting odds for the President of the United States. And the reason why I'm doing this is because Joe Biden has taken the lead for the first time since I actually believe March 16th was the last time that Joe Biden led Donald Trump on the national betting odds from people that are pretty much, again, betting on who they believe will become the next president of the United States. It's always very fascinating to see where the money goes, considering that it pretty much trends with America. Where the mainstream media and where the general public believes the election is going to go. A lot of the time, most people at least, believe that Donald Trump would win. In 2016, Hillary Clinton had a very strong lead amongst the betting odds. So these are in no way always accurate, but they're always very fascinating to see how many people truly believe each candidate will win. Because again, the statement, put your money where your mouth is, that's exactly what they're doing. They're betting on their either supported candidate, or they may support Donald Trump and believe Joe Biden will win, or they may support Joe Biden and believe Donald Trump will win. These are not reflective of the national polls. So it looks like there's a number of people who, at least previously, support Joe Biden but believe Donald Trump will end up winning the election. So the reason why this is significant is because of the fact that the overall electoral map is likely to take a shift. We're talking about the betting odds, which have been very solid for Donald Trump for quite some time now, and it's starting to see that COVID-19 did not take an impact on Donald Trump's reelection chances according to this, but the protests and the riots that are occurring around the country definitely do. With these recent turns, practically just the month of June has flipped this. You can also see that Donald Trump is lacking in numerous polls. In fact, the only swing states he's leading in are Texas, Iowa, and I think Georgia. So it's 3 out of the 10 states I would consider to be swing states, and that's a very, very unfortunate predicament for the president. And right now, these betting odds, the fact that they've even flipped means there's a lot more confidence in a Joe Biden victory than what we've seen previously. I've always been confident that Joe Biden is going to have a victory as of whenever I make those videos, just because of the fact that the numbers match up, and there's a lot more energy on the Democratic side that I'm seeing. Even though Joe Biden may not be an enthusiastic candidate, the people are angry. And it's not because of Joe Biden's campaigning skills that they're angry. They're angry at Donald Trump. Donald Trump single-handedly has inspired both the Republican and Democratic Party, and not for good reasons, to be honest. The Republican Party is starting to back away from some of the statements he's making. Same thing they did in 2016. Doesn't mean they're not going to vote with him. Does not mean that they're not going to support him when he wins re-election, or if he wins re-election. For Joe Biden, again, he may not be the best Democratic candidate in terms of what some Democrats may view policy-wise, but he was chosen by the Democratic Party, not necessarily the DNC, which some people may view that. It was a primary system, and the majority of Democrats want Joe Biden. The majority of Democrats are centrist Democrats, so keep that in mind. The progressives were already not meant to win. So, of course, when all the candidates drop out, they're going to back one candidate that they align with more, and that was Vice President Biden. So, I would not necessarily compare this election to 2016. Joe Biden has nowhere near the approval rating of Hillary Clinton. So America does not view it as choosing two horrible options. That's not what's happening here. That's what happened in 2016, but I honestly don't see that happening here. Outside of social media, first of all, people on social media don't vote. It doesn't matter how many retweets you get. You're not winning the primary. You didn't win. That's just because you didn't vote. We have 19% youth turnout, and that's honestly abysmal at this point because of the amount of people that I've seen be very vocal personally on social media, and then they're like, oh, I forgot it was primary day. Oh, I didn't submit my absentee ballot because I didn't realize it was due. Old people are beating us to the game, and they're voting. But I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I'm just saying, vote. When we're looking at the overall betting odds, I would say that because of the fact that America is angry and the fact that Donald Trump, again, like I said, the markets are reflecting it, the polling numbers are reflecting it, the Republican Party is showing it, they are hitting a low point in this country, and they are going to have one of the toughest ditches to get out of. Joe Biden's leading by the largest margin since 2020 started. So we're about 6 months in now, or 5 months in, going on 6 months, and Joe Biden is starting to expand his lead. This doesn't usually happen until we reach a convention, until sometime around August in normal elections. 2016, they moved them up to July, and it looks like they're being pushed back to August again. So we probably won't see another bump for either candidate. If things continue this way, Joe Biden's going to have a pretty solid chance at the presidency, and the numbers do exactly reflect that. Based off the map, this was the swing state allocation in terms of which states they expected to go for each candidate. I'm not going to fill in the entire electoral map because you can get a general idea of who's going to win based off these numbers. But this was the electoral map based off of the pretty much the numbers when Joe Biden was supposed to lose the presidency. So essentially, when Joe Biden was underwater, under Donald Trump, he was still expected to win the presidency. It was really weird. A lot of these statewide races, they expected to go to Joe Biden, but they didn't expect him to win the presidency at all. That makes sense because some people could say, I think Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania but lose Michigan. Some people might say vice versa. Or they may say, I believe Joe Biden will carry Wisconsin but not Pennsylvania or Arizona. So yes, the betting odds did favor Joe Biden in that sense, but it wasn't a collective thing. It was more so of, I guess, disconnected bettors in this sense that believe Joe Biden could win in one area and lose in the other and overall lose the election. So when I'm looking at these numbers, this is a very bad warning sign for Donald Trump. A lot of people have been told constantly throughout this campaign season, do not underestimate Donald Trump. He was underestimated in 2016. His effect on certain elections have certainly been underestimated. California's 25th district, even by me, I will admit I was wrong about that. I truly believe that Donald Trump's involvement in a California liberal district would push them further to the left. And that was one of the worst showings that we've seen for the Democratic Party in a special election, probably since, the seat that Scott Brown won in Massachusetts Senate election. And that was almost a decade ago, actually. So this was probably one of their more recent failures in a special election. And I honestly don't see it as an indicator for a red wave. And even if it was, the Republican Party is not winning the House of Representatives. But I will say that Donald Trump's name is starting to be tainted a lot more than where it was in 2016. Yes, he was constantly berated by Hillary Clinton, but we also had a very unpopular candidate on both sides. Hillary Clinton was no more popular than Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump probably beat her in terms of popularity or approval amongst Americans. She just, beat him in the sense that they believed she was better to lead the country, but they didn't like her. And while Joe Biden may be mildly underwater, -2, -3, Donald Trump is hitting a point where he's hitting negative double digits. Again, he's at his lowest point since 2020 started in terms of approval rating as well. So all of the numbers are matching up for a Donald Trump loss if this continues through Election Day. And as you can see, he has never been above water on this job approval map, and it's honestly, I guess, naive to assume that he was never going to win re-election. There were points in time where he was definitely disapproved of that I could easily see him winning re-election. Right at this point, right after COVID-19 hit, people were saying Donald Trump's doing a good job at handling it. And that's the point when I was saying, well, if they believe that and it continues on, Trump does have a very real shot at winning the presidency by larger than the 2016 margin. But since then, a number of things have happened, and a number of Americans have started to take away from supporting the president in terms of the way that he's handling his office. And when we look at this new shift in terms of the betting odds, that changes the electoral map. While states such as Ohio, Iowa, Texas, and Georgia may stay the same, states such as North Carolina and Florida have moved over into the Democratic column in terms of the markets that we've seen when they do hold statewide races, most notably the predicted market, which I actually will make a more in-depth video about because it is very interesting that these states in particular did move over before Ohio and Iowa and Texas and Georgia. Georgia was closer than Ohio, Iowa, and Texas. Texas was closer than Iowa. When we look, a lot of these states, they are either competitive or were competitive in 2016 or won when Biden was last on the ticket. But it seems that North Carolina seems a little bit more certain for Democrats, or at least where people are betting their money on. I said I wasn't going to fill in this map, but I'm just going to fill in the Democratic ones because I can show you they get to that margin of victory. They get to that win, 270 electoral votes, even without the state of California. So when I add the 55 electoral votes, you can imagine what's happening right there. And you can imagine the horror in the Republican Party right now when they realize that, based off the numbers right now, they would lose Wisconsin, they would lose Michigan, they would lose Pennsylvania, they would lose North Carolina, they would lose Florida, they would lose Arizona, and then the Democrats would hold on to every single 2016 state. That would be a worst case scenario for the Republican Party because even if Joe Biden does win the election, he needs to win by a very solid amount to be very convincing to the American people and to Congress, to the Republican Senate or possibly a Democratic Senate, that he is there to reverse the things that he believes Donald Trump has done wrong for the nation. I pretty much think that's the main goal of every president, to look back at previous administration failures and successes and try to replicate the successes and try to fix the failures. The big thing about repeal and replace Obamacare, the big thing about, in general, Trump's campaign has pretty much just spiraled off of attacking Obama in 2020. He's not the incumbent president. He's not the one running for re-election. But again, Obama was so closely tied with Hillary Clinton, so closely tied with Joe Biden. So the attacks that worked in 2016 have yet to be proven if they work in 2020, but will probably be used by Donald Trump. What Donald Trump attacks as a failed administration is propped up by Democrats as an attribute for Joe Biden. So we're starting to see Obama become the center front of the 2020 campaign, and honestly, rightfully so. Donald Trump pretty much ran for president because of a direct attack from President Obama. I could say that's the moment that started it all. That correspondence dinner, probably half a decade ago, I think 2013. And then Joe Biden, of course, was poised to run in 2016, ended up not doing it, unfortunately, for horrible circumstance for him. Very sad situation. And then, of course, is running in 2020. But again, these candidates, I understand why Obama is being brought up a lot, but I really think that both candidates should go ahead and focus on each other rather than the president from 2009 to 2017. But that's besides the point. These betting odds are not good news for Donald Trump. They only add to numerous polls that show him underwater in a number of states, numerous polls that show him underwater in terms of approval. The markets are shifting far away from Donald Trump. And while that margin may seem small, and I do think that Donald Trump can recover, it's going to be very difficult if these do continue, which is why I'm going to make a video. I've given it a little bit more time to die down, but I will be making a video about the impact of the protests and the riots and the comments Donald Trump has made on the 2020 election, and discuss a scenario where this does continue through Election Day, because I can tell you that I live very close to DC. I have a number of friends that stand on both sides of the aisle about this, and I can tell you one thing, that people are very angry, and it is very divisive. 100% very divisive, and that's not going to be good, especially under President Trump, because that's something that the American people, are going to directly attack him for. Whether it's his fault or not, again, is up for them to decide at the ballot box. But I will tell you that his approval definitely isn't taking a hit just because, for no reason. These people are doing it because they view him as a divider. If you look at the polling questions they ask, do you believe that Donald Trump tweets to be more divisive or more unifying? 65% of the time, they say divisive. 35% either no opinion or to be unifying. That's not good, because when you look at the content of his tweets, that's something that's being constantly used in attack ads, left and right. Republicans for Biden, the DNCC, just constant Senate candidate saying this Republican candidate supports Trump. This is something Trump tweeted, therefore they support this. And that's something that's probably going to be played on a loop. And I understand in 2016 attacking Trump wasn't the thing that won, but also Hillary Clinton had 25 years of baggage that Joe Biden doesn't have exactly. Yes, he was in the Senate for a very long time, and he has numerous things, but it's nowhere near the scandal list that we saw for Hillary Clinton back in 2016, which is exactly why they're not attacking him on things like that. They're not bringing up previous scandals. They've addressed the Tara Reade allegations, maybe not as in depth as most people wanted, but the media isn't talking about it, right? So, the media always talked about emails. They talked about Benghazi. Joe Biden somehow is playing the media game very well, and they're not talking about that. While I understand the whole idea of a liberal bias amongst the mainstream media, usually they're gonna cover the incumbent president, because he is the one in office and he is the one pulling the decisions. Obviously, Joe Biden has no real power outside of commitments and speeches and rallies, but I will say that this election is shaping up to be very, very interesting, and I think it's going to be one for the history books, especially this year in general. There's so much going on. We're amidst a global pandemic, and people are fighting for, equality, and it's going to be very difficult for politicians to draw a fine line as to where they can stand on these points. And right now, it looks like Donald Trump is in the negative in terms of the way that America views it and the way that even people who are putting their money on this race are viewing it. So again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please consider joining on the join screen right next to my subscribe tab. Subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down suggestions below. I'm going to drop a video a little bit later discussing, I'll actually leave it for a little bit later so you guys can actually see it, but it just has to do with the primaries. I'm just going to cover some of the interesting races if you're ever interested in that. So again, thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you all later today.